Why would somebody buy a brand new vehicle and then resell it within a year? Could it be they thought they would fall in love with that ugly grille, but it never happened? Or it sucks more gas and oil than an oil tanker? Or they ended up with Oil Burner 9000, or they just thought they were being cool. There's a significant percentage of vehicles now that people decide to hand back because they just didn't love it like they thought they would. I have a list of 10 of the worst vehicles that re-hit the market within a year, and why that is. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. A survey was tallied by iSeeCars.com. First of all, let's just start out by saying they did tally a whole percentage pile of vehicles that did get returned after or within a first year, and the average is only about 3% of most models or makes are ended up back on the chopping block. But the Jaguar XF, as we're looking right here, is an older version of the newer model, but the XF is at about 8.8% of vehicles are gone back on the chopping block within a year. But why is that actually happening? I mean, Jaguars are absolutely beautiful vehicles. They drive nice, they're superb, the interior fit and finish is exquisite. They definitely have a reputation associated with the royalty. So why is it in fact that people decide to dump them? Well, it's just for that reason. Number one is the perceived reliability or lack thereof. J.D. Powers and Associates ranked them very, very low down the list. We also talk about Consumers Reports hammers on a lot of these cars, these Jaguars, and that takes a toll. The other thing I might have to add too is after you own these for a while, you'll realize that the cost of service and maintenance is very, very high. It's not until you own it for a while. They drive it away, your first major service, and you realize you just paid $1,500 for an oil change. This is going to leave a mark on my finances. We also can't forget about some of the XF models had timing chain issues down here, rattle or guides where you could lose, skip a cog and blow the engine, water pumps, coolant leaks in general, differential, and other electrical gremlins throughout. One other point to mention, if you've been watching lately, Jaguar has been doing a really bang up and really aggressive campaign to sell their cars. Lots of incentives, giving rates that are almost irrefusable. You can't deny them. So people are like, well, hey, it's my opportunity to buy a new Jaguar and the rates are phenomenal. Let's try it. And then they get into it for a year and they realize, wow, what did I sign up for? I mean, Jaguars like this are clearly a beautiful car. And you know, they do have great headlights and they have that wonderful grille. And you know, we're missing the little pony that rides on top there. Of course, lots of chrome detail throughout, beautiful alloy wheels on all their cars. They always have these great details. So as I say, unfortunately, once people get a taste, almost 9% of the owners of these get rid of them within the first year. Well, another one here is the Versa and Versa Note. 8.7 and 9% of the vehicles are gone within the first year because people are just bored. The safety amenities are low quality. Other than a backup camera, there's very little to even offer from a safety perspective. The interior is very, very simple and plain, and a lot of their competitors are just doing it better. 1 in 10 people have decided to get rid of that vehicle in the first year. The Nissan Versa and Versa Note. Here we have a BMW X3 right there, and this ranks at about 9% of these vehicles go bye-bye within the first year. And there's a few reasons for that. First thing is, the owners probably got into that, got dazzled by all the flashy colors and LEDs inside and thought, Jojo, the circus boy, I need one of those. I can be really cool if I drive a BMW like that. After a year, you realize, I'm not so cool. After all, it's just another SUV. But what happens is you take these in, servicing starts to wrangle you in. Now, most of these actually have prepaid service packages, but when you look up on the bulletin in the service shop and it tells you engine flush, coolant flush, brake flush, and all those packages, and you're seeing $1,000 bills, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And then because you're a BMW owner, you probably start looking at the forums and you start reading the forums about all the horror stories of coolant leaks and rad hoses and water pumps and blown engines and rod bearings. And then you realize, uh-oh, what did I sign up for? So that's part of why, in fact, people decide to get rid of them after a year. But we also have to add on, these are much better. I'm going to say right now, this latest generation has the B48. To BMW's credit, they've really done a lot in the way of upping the reliability and durability of these latest generation 4 and 6-cylinder engines. A lot of these vehicles are highly incentivized. So in other words, a lot of the rates for leasing and financing are very aggressive. So it makes you want to get into one. And if you've been thinking about buying a luxury car, BMWs are definitely one of the stop shops for that. And we also can't forget that BMW, along with Mercedes-Benz, are those manufacturers that buy some vehicles to have as a loaner on the dealership, on the lot. So yes, so they can demo this and take you out for a test drive. They actually take those in and put miles on them. In doing so, they actually take the deed, they own it, and then they flip it within a year so they don't put too many miles on. That sort of skews the result a little bit as well. And BMWs in general are just one of those brands that it's take it or leave it. Once you have a little bit of that taste, you pretty much just say, yeah, I had mine, we're good to go. And here's the next one on our list. We're looking at a BMW. Now this is an X2, and it's, yeah, not the X2 that actually represents for vehicles that are gone in short order. It's actually the X1. It's a more upright version of this. That's the SUV. This is more of the sport crossover. They're built on the same chassis with the same engine. But I'm going to show you this as a point of reference because BMW, they use a lot of demos, and into buying those demos, it costs them money, and then they sell them within the first year to limit the mileage. Now, BMW's had a reputation for reliability or lack thereof with some of their models, but their later generation of engines, and this 4-cylinder engine that we're seeing here in this xDrive 28i, which is the same engine you'll find in the X1 version as well, the SUV, it's a B48 and it's a much more durable piece. Anticipate over 10.5% of the people that are buying the X1 are likely to give it up within a year. The next one on our list that hits 10.7% of the vehicles making it back on the used car market after a year is a vehicle like this. Now what we have here is a Mini Cooper, which is essentially a BMW product, but it's the Mini Clubman is the one specifically that most people are deciding to get rid of. The Cooper is more of an enthusiast vehicle. The Clubman is one of those alternative vehicles that a lot of people may be partial to the brand, but they thought they'd try something different, a little more unique, but then they realized it isn't quite up to the same gambit here. It doesn't have that same charm. At the end of the day, once you wash all the paint off, you basically have a situation where it's just another little SUV. And the Clubman definitely has the BMW lack of reliability, high maintenance costs, and that's where people start getting scared and decide to walk away from it. So the Mini Clubman is one of those vehicles that just doesn't hang around very long. And here we have another little hot rod here that makes the list. Yeah, this vehicle doesn't tend to stick around very long, and most people decide to send these vehicles packing. They are a great looking vehicle, absolutely. They catch the eyes. I mean, I will admit, honestly, I love the way these vehicles look. We're talking about the second generation, 2018 and newer, are the ones that you're going to be able to go out and buy today. And those are the ones that we're going to talk about today. There have been a lot of issues with the earlier generation, but the latest generation, some of that problem has gone away, but you can still anticipate some electrical issues. The transmission has an issue in some cases with shifting, hard shifting, slipping, and you're talking $5,000, $6,000, $8,000, $10,000 to repair or replace if you have a transmission issue. As well, the all-wheel drive system, we're talking all-wheel drive, it's an SUV right here. Haldex, yes, 40,000 miles, recommended servicing, aggressive servicing, fluid change and the likes. Any form of neglect or abuse on that, and you're gonna pay dearly. You're gonna pay the piper because that's just what it is. It's a very fancy, fun, and fresh system, but if you neglect it and don't take care of things, it's gonna definitely clean out your wallet. So these cars also are subject to what we're talking about, a lot of the incentivization and some of the brands that you're finding, you know, Mercedes, BMW, Jaguar JLR Group, this is part of, are doing great jobs of trying to push their products, and so they're offering up great lease rates, finance rates that make you want to buy it. You know, when somebody else is at 4.9%, they'll come in at a 2.9%. You'll walk up to something like this and you'll think to yourself, yeah, you know what? I think I should buy one of those. They look very, very cool, and so that's why people buy them. But then sometimes there's that buyer's remorse. The JLR Group is classic for that, and then after a year or two, you find them wanting to unload because 10.8% of these vehicles go bye-bye within the first year. And the next one right here on our list, 11.8% of these vehicles go bye-bye by the original owners because they get tired of them. And we're looking at the Land Rover Sport. Let's take a look at a few things and understand why people are selling these secondhand really quick. So one conversation, stabilizer bar issues, hub issues, brakes wear out prematurely. On some of the versions that are carrying the diesel engine in certain European markets, you're gonna get a rattle, and a lot of that has to do with the timing chain guides and ramps. So there have been some problems with that. Electrics have been problematic on some of these models and some of these years, and as we cycle around, I'll give you another example of some problem areas. I mean, these beautiful taillights, but look over here, we're all frosted in, and that's not good. So that will be a replacement light at some point. The interior is absolutely gorgeous, but there have been issues with fit and finish. So sadly, yes, almost 12% of the owners of these, buying them new, get rid of them, Likely, why did they buy them in the first place? Well, part of it's the name. You think Land Rover, it's a cool, chic name. And of course, incentivization, as I already said, in certain models. A lot of Jaguar's JLR group, the Jaguar Land Rover group, they're incentivizing great interest rates for financing and lease. And people get into that thinking, hey, I can get into this great new premium upscale luxury Euro wagon and I can do it on a song and a dance. And then you realize in short order what the high service costs and what an oil change and some of the servicing costs you after a year, you quickly decide, hey, it's time to move on. Here's the next model that you're definitely gonna find doesn't stick around very long, and many people get rid of these within the first year of ownership after buying them new. What sort of model are we looking at here? Well, clearly, if you can't see right down there on the wheels, they're basically driving a BMW. Well, what type of BMW? This isn't the latest generation, although it's a fairly late model unit. It's not the latest and greatest. This one has an engine that is very problematic. The latest generation is actually substantially better, but let's take a quick look at this vehicle here. Clearly, this is a BMW. They've gone and debadged it because they're basically embarrassed. What we have is a set of LED lights here, set of dual exhaust tips. Look at all that crust down there. We have a lot of carbon buildup. Direct injected engine that is partially to blame for that. We do have a set of wheels here that flare out a little bit. Of course, the handles wear very well. That's not a problem. And a lot of the structural components within these 3 Series BMWs do tend to hold up quite well. The interior also looks very stylish. It's got great blend of colors, high quality materials, and the latest iDrive system. Of course, you also get sunroofs and all sorts of other technology and safety implementation to make this car safe, fun, and frivolous. But the sad part is, look at that, right there. And then there, the hood's open as well. That's because this car is going through a world of hurt right now. And that's the problem. People buy them on great incentives, which is part of the reason they get into them in the first place. But then they realize after the high service costs, maintenance costs, and the reliability or lack thereof is what people get scared with. Now again, as I say, the latest generation is much better with the B48 engine. It's a 4-cylinder. This engine is the N20, which had all kinds of timing chain issues, oil filter housing issues, coolant leaks, and the like. So this car here is here for a reason. It was towed in. But it's very similar, as I've mentioned. You know, you have a brand here that often BMW does load up their car lots with demos. Those demos then get resold within a year's time to keep the miles down. So that's part of the reason why there's more of these vehicles and the numbers are a little higher on the list, because that's partially what's happening. But also partially because they realize there's better models, there's better cars out there. You drive a 3 Series, get behind the wheel of a 5 Series, and then you quickly want the 5 Series. It's just that much nicer. So here, unfortunately, this BMW 3 Series loses about 11.8% of its original buyers from when it was new, and they ended up on the used car market in short order. And here we go, the behemoth, based on iSeeCars.com, in terms of the maximum number of vehicles resold within a year's time frame, goes to this little champion right here, dressed in white. And I personally own one, so I can actually attest to that. And I will actually literally say, my wife says to me today, we need to get rid of it. I don't want it anymore. I didn't really love it in the first place, don't know why I bought it. And so I think that transfers across to a lot of owners. Now, while it's a cool looking car and it has a peppy engine with great fuel economy, a lot of great technology, it checks all the boxes. So BMW and Mercedes like this are the type of manufacturers that literally buy some of their vehicles, put them on the lot, use them as demos, and then reflip them after a year's time. So a lot of those numbers are slightly skewed. But the point remains, there are some things about this vehicle that you probably will find less appetizing. You can't really figure that out until you've owned it for about a year. But let's talk about some of the maintenance practices here. First of all, a lot of them are maintenance services. They get included, so that doesn't hurt very much. One thing you get is the 4-cylinder turbocharged 2-liter engine in here. Once you read the forums and you hear a little, hey, does your engine have that little, where they blow holes in the engine and then they shoot oil at the back? I mean, once you start reading the forums, you realize that there's some detonation problems with some of these due to poor fueling and some other issues, and some bad engines in some cases. It's not a huge number of issues, but it's making the radar. It's a great car, has lots of great technology, and generally we like our car, but there's something that I have to note as well. It's the reliability isn't great. We all know now that JD Power and Associates ranks the Mercedes-Benz close to the bottom, if not the bottom now. The same with Consumers Reports. Between those two, they're toggling. Mercedes-Benz has one of the lowest predicted reliabilities right now on the market. One thing I will add to that, ours actually hasn't been that problematic mechanically, although it's developed a bit of a weird noise when the car rolls. And it's not tires, it's not brakes or wheel bearings. The dealer can't figure it out. Been there twice and here we are. But what we actually have is a car that's quite fragile. And after you own it for a while, you realize we actually hit a set of train tracks once, and lo and behold, a couple of things broke off the car. Number one, that speaker on the driver door over there popped right out of the socket and blew right into the door cavity. We have a coupe, so there's a panel that comes up here and connects up with the body, and that part became dislodged from the metal panel. So it seemed quite fragile, if we're being honest, and we didn't drive it hard. The car's got low miles on it, and it was just one of those things like, what else is going to fall off this car? That's sort of the sense that we're getting, and clearly I think after a lot of people own these for a year, they start to realize it's a lot of glitz and glamour, but not a lot of substance. So sadly, 12.4% of these Mercedes-Benz C-Class hit the road within a year. And with all of that said, everyone, right there, check it out. You're gonna love that video, and it's all about what's coming up for 2024 and the great SUVs you'll find. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you all real soon. Bye-bye.